there? Welcome to the show. Of course, classmates and collegiates, we simulcast this show on the audio through a Discord server over at Fantasy Grounds College and YouTube and Twitch. So you can use any or all of the above, and there are many episodes uploaded to SoundCloud. And as a matter of fact, this week we will be uploading, I don't know, probably 20 more episodes together. And if you don't know already, we take a theme and we stretch it out all week. Today and the rest of this week, we'll be talking about Thanksgiving. Now, if you're not from the States, I'm going to give you a extremely simplified explanation of what Thanksgiving represents. Hey, Des, what's going on? Good morning. Um, Cue the dire turkeys because it's Monster Monday. All right, so for those who don't know, Thanksgiving, and I'm going to make this extremely simple and cut out all the nuance. All right, Thanksgiving is a celebration of a harvest that came about due to settlers that arrived in the New World and came to a land that had never been discovered before, wanted to have a new life, and wanted to live. And they brought with them little bits and pieces and baubles from their old world, whether it was their religion, their weapons, their culture, their animals and seeds, fruits and veggies and such. And they came upon strangers in this new world. No relationship culturally or language-wise or what have you. But through the course of events, they were able to not just communicate, but to trade and help each other survive. And so as the plants grew in a culture and at a time in which hunting and gathering was very important, they were able to celebrate the fruits of their labor and to celebrate together, and thereupon comes upon the holiday, the tradition of Thanksgiving. Now, I do understand. Yeah, I feel you, dead man. Maybe we'll talk about it when the Twitch is over. Jeez, when the stream is over, because I'm rather new to Twitch, and there are I think only like 2 or 3 episodes that are recorded onto Twitch, but from now on they will be uploading there. So yeah. Now, what are we going to draw from that for Monster Monday and the rest of the week as well, right? Well, we've already done holiday celebrations. This isn't exactly what we're going to talk about. We are going to delve into, well, basically the circumstances that led up to this event, both post and pre and post harvest, essentially. And I feel like we have a lot to pull from in terms of tabletop role-playing game fuel. I really do. So now Tesla says that neither Bradford or Winslow's writing reveal what was actually served at the Thanksgiving meal, besides fowl and deer, but guesses can be made based on the types of food they often wrote about, such as mussels, lobsters, grapes, plums, corn, and herbs. Yes, today it is the tradition of the most common fowl eaten is turkey. And for a very short amount of time, instead of the American eagle, the turkey was actually going to be our national animalistic mascot. That is not how that worked, but turkey, many people feel that actually turkey was not served then. But the idea, despite the specificity of what foods are served, is that hey, P, yeah, those across the pond from us, it's like, yeah, I so wish the turkey was your national bird. Yeah, lots of comedic fodder on that one, America. So anyway, let's talk about, because today's Monster Monday, let's talk about the circumstances for leaving someone's home to travel to an unknown in a untested, unknown manner, and then to arrive somewhere else in a place that's unknown. I think that's where we can really start from, because if you take a look at the thumbnail and of course the present image around me, right, that it coming in contact with um, a new person, whether that person is yeah, exactly, Pilar. Yeah. uh, the idea would be uh, creating and having a world, and even heck, a new species even of people landing. Now, of course, we can take this and stretch it into its um, stretch this idea, and we're going to do this the rest of the week. Stretch it far beyond just getting into a sailing ship and traveling to another land. I mean, the classic concept would be, getting in a starship and landing on another planet. This idea could be done the opposite direction. There was a television show and a movie called Alien Nation, and also District 9 and other things, where an alien species that, due to course of events, either technologically and socially, isn't that much further away from humanity, and they arrive on Earth, or arrive to Earth in small enough numbers that they are not dominating Earth. They just have to be incorporated into human society, and that's an opposite way, where the human beings are settled and then another species arrives from a new world. So what, not just the reasons for leaving home, but what kind of NPCs would be involved in something like this? Well, if you do the classic and very oversimplified Christopher Columbus, player characters could be hired to travel to this new world and be expected maybe to bring back certain types of resources. In this new world, maybe they find out that there is salt or wheat, rice, rye, gold, um, all any kind of resource that the previous world did not have and the new world has. Someone's going to be hired to take it. Now, there may be others who have a nefarious idea, like, hey, I'm not hired, but I found this resources, and you sure as hell know I'm gonna steal it if I can get it and take it back. Some one man's garbage is another man's treasure, right? So they get to the new world and they go, tobacco, weed. Oh, what? That's for anything. Whaling is an idea, but you get my point. Whatever resource there is, whether it's natural. Yeah, thank you, Dead Man, for the Alienation TV series and the film, which I think could be. I think it's due for a remake. Personally, or a retelling, let's say. Um, in a modern age, like a HBO channel or something like that, a little bit more adult. But that's a great. I believe that if you're looking for some kind of intellectual property, I think those two are really good to pull from. Also, there is it could be that whatever the player characters are experiencing in their life, maybe their old world has been extremely mundane, and it isn't until they get to the new world that, say, classic Dungeons and Dragons, 99.5% of everyone is a fighter, or they are of their class in words only, not in practical deeds. But when they get to the new world, the idea of a druidic individual shape changing may not have even existed until they've gotten to the new world, which would be a pretty interesting method to go about. But let's talk about it's Monster Monday, so let's talk about some other NPC type of individuals. Maybe the reason for, first of all, you're going to need a reason for leaving home. Are you a persecuted subclass of individual? Are you maybe not born into wealth? Are you a criminal? Maybe there's religious persecution going on. Maybe you are of a particular, from a particular region. You speak a language and you're from a region that is considered a second-class citizen. Maybe there's something racial about you, or something has spread amongst the community, whether it's a type of hair color or physical, maybe there's some kind of physicality about you, or maybe it's just a simple political regime that has changed, and everyone is trying to escape before the new political regime fully entrenches itself. And there's a reason. Maybe someone has a secret, and holding that secret, just having that knowledge, could mean death if someone finds out, and so you run from your world. Also, maybe that world is is falling. It's a fallen kingdom through disease, war, strife, plague. It could be starvation, that kind of thing. Yeah, we're getting there, Dead Man. Yeah, Dead Man says Native Americans had stories of the skinwalkers, werewolves. Yeah, indigenous peoples also had a lot of stories. And after leaving home, some of those NPCs, those motivating factors, may still come about. You owe someone money, and then they themselves send agents to collect money from you in this new world. Maybe you have left your very fundamentalist, restricted religious teachings to go to a new world to, live your life and faith the way you want it to, but there are agents from back home that want to come after you. But now you've arrived on shore, and you meet things and people that you've never seen before. Heck, you could come upon any kind of, let's say on a sailing ship, you could come upon aquatic species and or races that you've never been exposed to long before you get on land. But once you get on land, let's think about this thumbnail, right? There are stories that might, and we've gotten past the point of communication. Okay, we have a rudimentary ability to communicate with the people that live in this new land, but they have a different culture. They do things differently, and you can start to pick and choose. Now, mind you, you don't necessarily need to be very specific, in terms of finding the new world and do an exact duplicate of people leaving England to come to what has become the United States by meeting Native Americans. You don't need to copy that exactly, right? But the idea is to pull from that and look what kind of drama happened from people leaving England coming to the new world, right? It wasn't just 5 minutes of, oh, they left, well, no big deal. And people didn't arrive and go, hey, I can't speak with you, you can't speak with me, and took, Google translated it. That's not how things work. There's a lot of drama involved in it. And when I say drama, I mean life, death, and killing, and the destruction of old ways and the growth of new ways of living. I bring up the age of piracy and privateers and the television show Black Sails. If somebody wants to look up like the age of piracy, and you want a very quick, dramatic television show styled method of talking about the people that lived in the Caribbean islands, and people who left their old world and tried to hold on to old ways and such. And the new people have their own stories. Like Dead Man says, Native Americans had stories of skinwalkers and many other things, the Wendigo and the coyote gods and all spirits and all kinds of things. And so maybe this is a great time to reflavor and reskin and retell what the new people are. And if you are a world builder, what a great way, and your player characters are someone that wants to get involved, what a great way to in very small ways reveal this new world they've come to. And that new world, not sure what that refers to there, Palora. How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now. Now, there are, you could go very gritty with this and just have a brand new culture, and the player characters have to literally scrape their way into living. in this new place, for searching for food, searching for water, trying to survive by creating shelters and such, having problems having literally their harvests planted in the ground, and making a literal adventure out of trying to hunt down fowl and deer and other kinds of things, trying to domesticate such creatures as wolves into dogs, and breaking horses and such, like, right, if you know, not familiar. Hey, Infinite, what's going on there? I didn't know. Ask the Nova Scotians. It's from a shanty called Bart. Bartlett's Privateers, about a British privateer group. Yeah, here in the north of me, in one of the Great Lakes, is a place called Puddin Bay, and there's Perry's Cave is up there, and dealt with a war. And as a matter of fact, when dealing with war, not only do you have the hassle of trying to deal with probably multiple cultures impacting each other at the same time in the new world, you have the old world who is standing by, and they're not going to stand by and just fold their arms and shrug and go, they left, big deal. They might want bits and pieces of this new world, especially if people have come here from the old world and bring back with them stories of what has happened with these people that have sailed across this great ocean. And so they may bring upon them spies and agents, and maybe even a growing, as hard as life is in the new world, there may be people who show resentment for the player characters and the other leadership that is not able to keep them safe and feed them and shelter them. And so maybe they want the vast resources of the old world to come here, and maybe that's when there are rumors of a war about to brew between both groups. And how would a war look, especially when having to expend so many resources? And how do you organize people who all have the same desire, but that desire is chaos? Everybody wants to do their own thing, and everyone wants to throw off the shackles of the rules and rule of law from the old world. And there is no law in this new world. How do you prevent people who can arrive on your borders of this new world you found, and you have no ability to mitigate or even circumvent how they arrive? They can arrive with, there could be 5 people in a dinghy, or 5,000 people in massive ships that arrive on your shores north or south of you, and you have no ability to stop them. Or how do you incorporate them into your society? And the player characters themselves are now dealing with the dangers that are out, as the natives peoples are like, I get you want to be here, but we have evil spirits and elemental beings that we need to appease, and you guys aren't paying attention to us. We're trying to tell you, we've got things like skinwalkers and elemental spirits and shapeshifters and all kinds of things, and we aren't going to survive if you guys just keep coming over with your dirty, ignorant selves, right? And then, unlike a lot of television shows with First Contact, I'm looking at you, Star Trek, where an entire planet is like a monoculture. That's not normally realistic. So if you want to go a little bit gritty, just because the PCs encounter one cultural group may not represent the desires of that entire cultural group. As a matter of fact, they may not even speak the same languages, let alone have the same ideals, right? Sure, a very diplomatic group may come up to the strangers that just arrived on their shores and try to communicate, but there might be groups in that are native to those locations that are like, ooh, we get to use and abuse these people. Yeah, I can use them to go against my enemies if I just convince them of a thing, right? Now, Deadman says Sherbrooke is a city in southern Quebec, Canada. Sherbrooke is situated at the confluence of the St. Francois or St. Francis and Magog rivers in the heart of the Estrie administrative region. And Sherbrooke is also the name of a territory equivalent to a regional country municipality in Quebec. Sherbrooke. And again, using that idea, okay, as people come to the new world, they may establish a bulkhead of not only their own culture, but maybe their own specified way of doing things. So, if I can be very general, talking about Dungeons and Dragons, you guys know character classes, right? Fighters, warlocks, clerics, wizards, rogues. What if, and I'm being very, very, very stereotypical, what if those individual groups arrive in this new world? A group of fighters are more warlike. Maybe they want to set up forts and start training people in how to use weapons because of a threat that is out there. And of course, everyone else is like, "What threat? These people just invited us and are showing us the plants and animals that we've never seen before. Some of them are poisonous and dangerous. Some of them are very nutritious. They're just showing us how to live." And fighters like, "Yeah, but one of these days they're going to turn against you." The clerics bringing over someone's faith. There are different types of faith. What if a group of warlocks got here that have been ordered by their warlock patrons that, "Hey, I will do anything for your power," and that warlock patron is like, twisting the mustache like, "Oh, anything? I want you to get on a ship and sail across the world and make a small but insidious group just for us." Dark Fox, I haven't seen you before, but I hope you've been here and taken part. So thank you for joining in. I hope you don't mind our um, demi-daily deep dives into certain types of things. Today's Monster Monday, and with Monster Monday, we're talking about, of course, it's tabletop RPGs, and we are talking about Thanksgiving and the things that lead up to it. Now, the other idea could be, since this is Monster Monday, that there may be, of course, general monsters, right? Spirits, individuals, cultures that have to come up with new ways to deal with these strangers who arrived on their new land. Okay, so for example, the native peoples may have a particular relationship, let's say, with elemental beings, much like the Jinn or Ifrit, but maybe reskinned in your setting or your world, or maybe they're exactly the way they are. They are exactly Jinn and Ifrit and other beings like that. But when these new people come, it maybe these spirits can't see these new people, or at least cannot see them on a spiritual level, or maybe there's some kind of strange arcane um, dealings with these new people that are unfortunately not the same with the native individuals. So, for example, maybe there's a native group of individuals that are like, the expectation of what you think in the old world is not the same thing in the new world. So a werewolf, and I'm going to be very general here. Hey, Joseph, what's going on? So in the old world, a werewolf may be a very dangerous thing, like a bestial Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Victorian England, I'm thinking of, right? Dark streets, foggy, cobblestone, killing people and such. And in the new world, a werewolf might be a very natural part of society, a group of people who can shapeshift into a more lupine form and are not bestial and such. So it could be a re um, a destruction of the old way of thinking of things and a new way. In your old world, your orcs might be very angry and bestial and murderous and such, but in the new world, nope. Yeah, you're no, everyone in during my live stream is muted until the very end. Sorry about that, but there's no way I can have everyone unmuted to speak. This stream above is going live on Twitch and YouTube as we talk. So sorry about that, Dark Fox. Infinite says, adding fantasy elements. What if the gods of the old world, weak and forgotten, come to the new world and join forces with the spirits and gods of the new world to war against the mortals of the old? Ooh, I like that. I like that idea of the gods of the old. I mean, let's move us slightly away from an from Victorian England. There is evidence that the Vikings have arrived in the New World at some point, and they of course brought with them their gods as well. And how much of a disruption would it be for a people who think the world works a certain way? Like, let's take the Vikings, for example. Yeah, we've got Odin and Thor and Freya, and that's how life works. And then you get to a new world, a la like the television show Vikings and other shows thereof that were related and similarly done. They get to a new world and they see these people with a mono god, instead of polyatheists, they're monotheists, and they're just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I think that's a great way to have player characters and NPCs to integrate with each other, both in the manner of like, hey, I want to play a ranger, but I want to be a ranger from the new world, who was born in this native culture. And then someone else can say, well, I want to play a ranger, but I want to be a ranger that came from the old world that came over. And while both may be hunters, they're going to do that in parallel methods, but done differently and culturally. So you could literally have twice as many vocations done in different ways. And of course, you have yourselves social impacts, right? The social impact of, I see you've gone native, or the natives are like, you're from those, I smell foreign blood in you, or something like that. Dark Fox says, okay, what about a science fantasy? A computer becomes so advanced it becomes a god of technology. You may not know, we do this 5 days a week, and I'm not putting it down. I'm actually, this is something we always do, which is we are a collection of the most intelligent and brightest and creative people. So we try to hold that off till Future Friday. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but I definitely agree with you that this does not need to be medieval-ish, ancient-ish. Like there could be a computer could become so advanced that maybe the people leave it because it has dominated their world, or humanity has discovered another world in which an AI is their culture in the new world, and the human beings are like us. Find an alien culture that has massive amounts of technology and such, and they are trying to integrate us with them, and talking about how barbaric we are. Now, I think one of the things we need to be careful of is the narrative of someone being a barbarian and the character game statistic of being a barbarian, right? Two cultures that look at each other are going to absolutely positively in our own world from today on out, from time immemorial, have looked at somebody else's culture and called them barbaric. Statistically, that doesn't mean someone is better or worse than someone else, but that's definitely a thing. Yeah, Josephine is like, where brings up squirrel. Yeah, we always have the squirrel. We get a little squirrely here sometimes. Yeah, Mutant Crawl Classic, the AI patrons. Yeah, Mutant Crawl Classic derived from Dungeon Crawl Classics. I have not played or looked through Mutant Crawl Classic, but if it's anything like Dungeon Crawl Classic, it's got to be special and sarcastic and everything. Joseph Keenan says werewolf hunters mistakenly confuse or don't care shamans who shapeshift into animal forms. They run a scam to still get paid by the crown. Yes, yeah, you could get really dark with that one, right? Like you said, they could either mistakenly confuse the old world werewolves as the new world werewolves, or like you said, there's probably a group that's like, I don't care as long as we get ourselves some skinwalker fur. I'm done with that. I who cares who's under the skin? And of course, what maybe this is a little too deep, but in your classic gaming, you always have a monster hunter styled class, right? Whether it's rangers that hunt monsters, whether it's a witch hunter or vampire hunter or something. And imagine having that class. You've been trained to slay these beasts. You get to this new world, and they're like, and instead of those beasties wanting to kill you and you wanting to kill them, they're like, hey, how you doing? You want to sit down and eat? And they're like, what? I don't know what to do now. you know. Now, sure, does that mean that it might make your class features kind of useless? I would say no, but initially a player character might want to table flip like, I made up a werewolf hunter and now I gotta befriend him. This is stupid, table flip. Um, but it would make for an interesting ideal, right? I've done an old video about people not trying to go ham on their fellow allies. My ranger wants to kill goblinoids and orcs, orcs, bugbears, goblins, hobgoblins, and then one of the PCs is a half orc. That doesn't necessarily mean your ranger wants to automatically kill, the half orc, especially if that half orc is their cousin or their half brother or something like that, right? It could be that they now have to rethink who and what they are, and how they do things, right? Maybe of course they're still good at killing orcs, but now they're befriending those same orcs, and maybe those orcs are in danger for befriending you. Yeah, what if those skinwalkers are now in trouble with their patron for befriending you as a stranger who's come to their new world, not knowing that you are a werewolf hunter in the first place? And so now you got a werewolf hunter befriending skinwalkers who are very nice to them, but both have agents that want to see them kill each other. Um, Absolutely. Pelor's like, damn, very on the ball with the Christmas tree. Yes, over my shoulder. Yep, absolutely. 'Tis the season. Normally, I'm going to say classically, and I don't think this is for everyone, but normally it's Thursday's Thanksgiving, Friday you put up the decorations for Christmas, but whatever. Um, had time this weekend, and the wife and I got started. We went out to light the tree in Gehenna, which is anyways, it's a county right next to us and stuff. Privateer style wolves, Pelor says. I like that, and it doesn't have to be. We're using wolves and werewolves as a placeholder for any number of things, right? Who's to say that any and all people that leave the old world aren't, by the very nature of leaving their own world, like Infinite brought up, that the old gods and the old powers are striving to maintain their power, and by going to this new world, now you've thrown in this unknown entity. If an Egypt cultured people traveled to a new world and come to find out that those Egypt's cultured people are now in, they find a new people that are, let's say, Persian or Indian or from India, and the Egyptian gods are, fighting the multi-armed and, multi-limbed gods or something, or coming upon them, and the people that they represent. Yeah, I like that dichotomy. If I mean, what, or who's to say that um, the old world, who thought that they were the pinnacle of society, they get to the new world, and you come to find out that they're related. They are more related to each other than they even thought. Um, a paladin's order goes to the new world, and despite a language barrier and cultural barrier, they are exactly the same. And then it's like, wait a minute, the gods told me that there everybody else was, a pagan or something. And wait a minute, you mean you're worshiping the same deities that I'm worshiping? That's odd, but could be a thing, right? um Joseph Keenan is talking about Mutant Crawl Classic is okay, but I end up personalizing my default setting. Love the step dice. Yeah, me too. um don't worry, my cats are ready to kill this treat. I gotta remind them not to eat it. It's a fake one, but whatever. They don't say it. Whatever. Deadman says his Dark Materials is a series of novels by Philip Pullman, and the movie The Golden Compass and the HBO series of the same name airs on Mondays. Yes, I have not taken a look at his Dark Materials. I'm not. I am no Golden Compass head, but I know people who have read those novels and such, and find them very entertaining. And who is to say that both the old some kind of there could have been a reason for the old world and the new world being separated for as long as it has, to fall into legend and mystery, especially if each side realizes that they've had a history in the past, and that history is now gone. Much like arriving in a new world, saying you're the first people here, the people don't recognize you. Oh, we're the first peoples, and then both groups go together, and then they end up finding ancient artifacts that, wait a minute, we used to be together. Why did we separate? Now it could have been some natural disaster. Um, uh, an ice shelf breaking, a new ice age had come about. It could be something of that nature. But yeah, absolutely. And what a great way to tell different stories for your player characters, in terms of, instead of just hitting things upon the head and shoulders. This What we consider to be a success and failure is not killing things, but survival. And trading may be what is measured by success or failure. Because if you can't help out the community on either side of the cultural divide, maybe you're kind of worthless for the society, right? Running around as a gunman killing people isn't what you need. You need people who can build shelters and hunt and such. Like Pelora says, hunting and trapping for pelts was a big deal. You could certainly have a premium on owlbear pelts or whatever to get sent back to the old world. Hell yeah. And not just so let's go beyond killing the owlbear, right? You're stealing the owlbear. It's not just you're killing them, but you're taking their pelts. Their pelts make a value. What value is it to anyone? Do you keep them for yourselves? Is it a premium to get more pelts to send back to the old world? Are you offending the culture that lives here, that respects the owlbear? Maybe they kill the owlbear too, but one per season, thanking the gods for giving them the pelt and the feathers and such like that. But we don't kill them in mass. Like, you just don't do that. And also, where does it go? Does it help? Are the PCs helping out the community? Maybe that food and those pelts and the bones and the meat and such can feed a bunch of people. I would absolutely, yep, exotic fruits. As a matter of fact, even today we don't think much of it, because we have such a globalized world that lots of fruits and vegetables and meats even are spread around the world. But yep, talk about bananas and papayas. Absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, the potato is not native to the United States, right? But there are things that were, and especially the islands, the Caribbean islands, like bananas and papayas, coconuts. What are some other strange and exotic things? Well, exotic pets and animals like parrots and monkeys and things. or maybe monkeys were brought over. Also, there are invasive species. I believe rats and rabbits are an invasive species, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever the case may be, you can make up your own species type things. Like, what if, follow me on this, what if bears lived in the old world, owls were brought over from the new world, and the owl bear was created from the blending of the two for some odd strange reason. Like the existence of an owl bear did not exist until the two met together. Much like all of the chimeric creatures might be a thing. Joseph says potato, mostly South America, if I remember right. Not sure. Mind you, I'm the king of not knowing things. So, Plura says gray squirrels are invasive in the UK. Yeah, and what a great way to build a world and have monsters and NPCs and creatures that are involved. Like, what if there is a profession now in the world to rid the world of these now monstrous things that did not exist before, right? It's like the age of piracy, maybe the age of I'm being very generalized, right? But the age of piracy didn't exist until there was a reason to go sailing in ships. So much like that, maybe there is a reason for certain character classes to exist only because of the integration between the two or more cultures that have come in contact with each other. Now, Dark Fox says, what about a deal where people who thought they were just real world people, or woke up from being hooked to a matrix, they will actually realize fantasy races that were in a medieval time, unlike in modern times after their world was conquered by aliens. They all got hooked up. Who does punctuation? Okay. Matrix. Who does the Matrix fantasy races come back today? Real world integrated with our society. I think I understand what you're saying. So, in other, you're hitting. You're going too fast for us, man. That's for Future Friday. But your point being is that instead of traveling to a new world, actually the people wake up into the world that they didn't know existed. I think that's perfect for like the anti-Matrix kind of thing, where the people thought their world was a certain way, and then they wake up in the real world and they're just like, we have to do a whole new, like, we have to rethink what the world is or what it used to be or something. Dragon fruit, pitaya or pataya, the dragon fruit. There's ugly fruit. There's like a star-shaped fruit. I don't know what it's called. Oh, this is probably called a star fruit. Darkfist says, what about Godzilla-sized draconian werewolf? You're going a little bit. I mean, yeah, could people get to the new world and you end up like seeing like kaiju or something like that? Yeah, we did a week of kaiju and giants and robots and stuff, although we could probably do that again sometime. But oh yeah, there's all kinds of ways to integrate the old and the new, and kind of like hey, get people together, like, hey everybody, make up a classic Dungeons and Dragons character, and everyone's like, okay, all right, this is a surprise, but okay, let's do this. And then all of a sudden you're dumped into like maybe you travel to like a high-tech world or vice versa. You know what I mean? Joseph Keenan says the original Battlestar Galactica, Larson was a Mormon, was a reskinning of LDS and biblical lore about the missing tribe of Israel. I believe Superman was similarly reskinned that way as well, because a lot of the publishers of the old comic books were Jewish immigrants and such. Yeah, Spelljammer is a perfect, Balford is a perfect setting for a reason to travel to a new place and see new things. I mean, well, remember, Spelljammer came about for player character, basically your typical player character, to get in a ship and then sail literally through the phlogiston, or some people call it Phlogiston, Yep, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. I got a review on my. Maybe I should do that. Redo that one again. But I have a review of the Expedition to Barrier Peaks on my channel, and it constantly gets hits as people go towards it. Yeah, the star-shaped fruit. Thank you, Dead Man. Star-shaped fruit is in a Karambala or Karambala. Um, but yeah, the Expedition to Barrier Peaks, a high-tech starship maybe stuck into the Barrier Peak Mountains in the setting of Greyhawk, for those who don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a now, mind you, I wouldn't surprise my players with something like that unless they're into it. Um, I would say that you would really want to prepare your players, especially if they get bored. If they're like, yeah, we've done the slaying the dragon and traveling and stuff. Mate, let's do something else. And you go, okay. Um, there's a reason why you're leaving home. You're on the deck of your sailing ship as thousands of ships. Oh, Numenera is literally an explore the unknown world, and yeah, I love the Numenera setting just because it's so like gonzo and bonkers, and things don't have to be the way you think they are, um, which is something we're going to have to watch out for if we get a little too gonzo. Oh, gravity doesn't work the same way. Oh, guys, when you try to swing a sword, it actually swings the opposite direction. Like, you don't want to get too squirrely, especially if you want to start like in putting your players into something like Planescape, which kind of fits into this as well. Planescape, Dark Sun, if yeah, Rifts. Yeah, if it gets a little too gonzo, maybe your players are like, okay, we need a. Sometimes you need something to hold on to that is stable and consistent, and the consistency is a very important part. Now, you can throw something in there that's bizarre, but it should have a consistency involved in their methods and such, right? Don't keep every time the players figure out your new world, don't keep trying to change it up on them because you feel like, I want to keep the mystery going. It's like, no, give them the win. Just allow them to benefit off the win, and then give them more mysteries to find out. Uh, Joseph says, I know the Incas in Peru had a poop ton of varieties of potatoes brought to Europe because of the tramping of fields in uh, Napoleonic type wars. And yeah, follows the world's rules. Yeah, yeah. In Rifts, there is the idea of Rifts, and Torg is another world, a game system where the integration of other worlds into our world bring upon new rules for that world. So much like Planescape, you could say, listen, when you go to this new place, there are new rules involved, and you must abide by the new rules. Those new rules are just consistent, is what I'm saying. All right. Not saying you can't change those rules, but there are new rules. Dark Fox says, I'm really not following you, Dark Fox, unless you're typing stream of consciousness. I I apologize, dude, or young lady, or anything in between, but I'm not following you. Now, what could happen though is that what we assume. Okay, follow me on this. That you get to the new world, and there is like I was mentioning before, like a werewolf may be a monstrous beast in one world, and quite social beings in the other world. Also, how things operate might be different as well. Meaning, like, when you get to the new world, we're going to use the rules of this game, but they actually didn't operate that way from the old world. So, for example, let's take your average, let's take a wizard. Okay, maybe wizards were far more powerful or had far more access to their magical abilities, or maybe those abilities came out in a different manner. And then you get to the new world, and now you have spell slots, and you've got to memorize them, and you need far more spell components or something like that. So it could be that the beings, the player characters and other people that came from the old world were the gods of their old world, and then they get to this new place they visited, and now the things are different, and now they have limitations, a limitation they didn't think they had. Much like the classic, my character has amnesia and I used to be a 20th level wizard, but now I'm starting over at first level. You could do that writ large. You get to this new world, and the greatest warrior in the world is a first level character in this new world, and it's like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm just fumbling around here. Uh, yeah. Paranoia RPG. Talking about the game is treason. Metagaming is treason. The computer is your friend. Yeah, and I love that Paranoia game. I haven't played that in so long, but I had a lot of fun. What a great player versus player game too. Now, along with us talking about creatures and things like that, it is Monster Monday, and oh yeah, Hollow World, Hollow World from D&D, and I think there's even, is there a Ubiquity system Hollow World, pulp action kind of thing? I think there is. Dark Fox says, I created these things called Necros. They're pretty much the bio-wizardry, necromancy, lich version of the Star Trek Borg, which may be a thing, like, for example, the integration of these people coming across the oceans, or however you travel to this new place, might be pretty simple, but there could be dark elements from both sides that neither one wants to reveal. And on one hand, if they reveal it, they might show their weakness, but on the other hand, they need allies against it. So for example, like this dark bio-wizardry necromancers that are like on this alien world that the PCs have just arrived in, maybe the people there are like, they've got the sweat on the upper brow and the upper lip, like, hi, how are you? We love to meet you. When in the back of their minds, they're like, I hope you brought guns. Please hope you brought guns. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, yeah, we want to extend peace, but really, I hope you brought a lot of weapons, because we really sure could use your help in defeating this other thing. And so, again, this doesn't need to be a black and white situation of go to New World, try to talk to people, but there could be other elements in it. For example, defeating enemies that they have, or such. Now, me personally, I like, yeah, time for the 4-letter word, work. Have a good one. Hey, Joe Key, man, have a great one, man. I'm glad you could stop on in, and I love your interactions, dude. It's all good. It's all good. Man, making me reminisce. Squirrel. Yeah. Yeah, Boffin says Babylon 5 was Lord of the Rings in space. Yep, sure was. And you can reskin this idea of travelers going to a place and establishing something new. Now, me personally, I love the narrative of maybe giving the player characters a responsibility to take care of a new settlement or a new haven, and maybe even tying in a lot of the player character capabilities into it. Like, for example, a limitation that I would put in to say, let's take regular old Dungeons and Dragons, right? Yes, you can travel out into the wilderness, and yes, you're adventurers, but maybe the regaining or the gaining of levels, or the gaining of like the short rest, long rest mechanic is changed so that you must go back to a settlement. And in order to efficiently travel out into the greater world, you can, maybe there is a difference between an encampment, like setting up a tent, little bonfire, maybe a small encampment of like 20 to 50 people, and a major settlement. And maybe there's a difference between those. And in order to really regain your abilities, you have to go to a major settlement. But along the way, you're establishing these smaller encampments and small settlements and villages and things to allow the people to spread out and to live and survive and such. Like, for example, you find a spring with clear a fresh, clear water, but now you have to set up a defense perimeter around it because of the dangerous monsters and such. And so the player characters may not be responsible just for themselves, but for others. Um, I, you guys know that I'm writing something for the teleporter jumper RPG. I've come up with the name Drift. I think I'm going to stick with, and in it I've come up with anchors. Anchors are things that hold the player characters to the world, and so maybe your anchors are tied, much like what's the game? Wraith the Oblivion, playing a ghost. You have fetters, things that tie you to the world, like a person, place, or thing that you must encourage and protect and bring life to. And not only could damage happen to you in a fist fight, battle, and being whatever, you get shot at, cut, scrapes, and things like that, whatever. But you also have to protect your fetters, your anchors, your ties, your connections as well. And maybe they represent your connections to the world. So maybe, you know, you could have like 15 points in one major settlement and another 8 points in a small village or something. And, you know, attacks to the small village, you know, affect you both physically and psychologically. When I say physically, I don't mean like, you know, attacks launched against the village, it feels like you got an arrow point, but I'm saying like you are exhausted, your character becomes disconnected to what's around them, and so that might be a greater way to tie the player characters into the world. And with dangers and monsters out there, maybe it's not a good thing to kill off all the monsters because you're affecting the ecology of what's out there. You know, those owlbears might be keeping those dangerous blood-sucking sturges away, and maybe those owlbears are also digging in the ground and eating those rot grubs. But now that you've eliminated all the, you know, all the owlbears, now the rot grubs and the sturges are starting to infest these villages and major settlements, and now you got to figure out a way to get rid of them, much like human beings did much in our past, right? You get a plague of rats, you breed a bunch of cats to go after them, and then unfortunately then you start having like weasels, and then they start breeding small dogs to get into small spaces to go after the weasels, and snakes and things like that. So I would love to. This doesn't necessarily need to be a downtime kind of event, but it could be the idea of taking care of your resources. And those resources could be literal resources, animal pelts, food items, salt, mineral resources, lumber, that kind of thing, tobacco and whatnot. It could be the processing of those resources, growing tobacco, and then there's the process of drying tobacco as well, making beef jerky and those kind of things. There's the processing the wood down into paper or parchment or something, or processing it into lumber that's used for building materials and such. You know, maybe you have to oversee the processing of that and protecting it to get from one place to another. And what a great triangle. You guys know I talk about triangles. What a great triangle to not just have PCs go out into wilderness and kill things and dungeon delve, but maybe they are protecting a group of 20 to 50 travelers that are trying to get to another place of great resources. Or I'm smoking tobacco as you speak. Yeah, maybe the PCs are just protecting an entourage. Hey, what's going on there, dog? What's up, dog? Maybe they're just protecting the entourage of diplomats, and the PCs are there to ensure that the new people, all of us from the new world are able to speak and converse and buy and trade good foods and services from the people from the old world, and vice versa, right? Player characters could absolutely play characters from these new native peoples that are doing the same thing, and maybe there's a cadre of individuals that are together. So, but you get my point, where you can reskin and reshape things. You know, your Viking your classic Viking characters go to the New World to after killing giants up in the tundra, and then they find giants in the New World, and the giants there are just like, hey buddy, what's going on, having zero idea that you were out there slaying their people. And maybe they feel some kind of way about that, like, what, you killed our people, we want to go back with you to your old world. And the Viking people are like, you don't want to go back there, dude. We've got like 14 volcanoes that exploded, so yeah, there's nothing left, right? And there may even be more things. Maybe there's just a natural animosity between the two, and both sides are like, we're going to end up killing them. I don't know what it is, but I think we're going to end up killing them. And maybe the PCs need to keep everyone separated until such time as they can figure something out. And much like Dark Fox was talking about necromancy, maybe powers and spells and abilities just don't work the way we think they work. Maybe your classic necromancer's quite evil in this new world, but in the old world, they were just regular old people. Of course we did that. And of course there are cultural differences, right? There are cultural differences between how people eat, how they socialize, gender, religion, language, death rites, and such. Some people put their people on floating barges set ablaze and set out to sea, while others bury them, while others make a flaming pyre or whatever, that kind of thing. That's why I said scorpions are good, because they find vulnerabilities and see the edge. We beat the Indians because we had the edge with weapons. Now, we're not, I don't want to, while we're talking about Thanksgiving, yeah, yeah, weird how the wheel can win a war. The thing is that I find that I'm not arguing with you. I'm just going to say that I think sometimes we as role players, because we are intelligent, we love to equalize our equations, right? 1 + 1 = 2, and we want to get to number 2 because we see the 1 + 1. But my contention is that there's a lot of history, real world history, happens over a long period of time, and there's not much interest in the end result. There's a lot of drama during that period of time. So before a war was won, no one knew if a war was going to be won or not. People had their opinions about it, and there were things that were involved that helped win one side or the other if there is a war. But the things that happen in between, the 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, 500 years of something happening, is where the drama is. And I feel like that's the sweet spot in tabletop RPGs for us to pull from. It's not oh, new people come to a world and take over. It's new people come to a world and then you leave the rest of it blank because you don't know what happened. There's a lot of people that died who were just like, this shit ain't good, right? Like, this is just not, this is a really terrible idea for us to even have moved here, let alone surviving. Like That's Right brings up smallpox. There's lots of people die from starvation and cold and diseases, and yep, a bunch of other diseases spreading around. A whole bunch of sexually transmitted diseases happened at that time, and all those people that died, yeah, I hear you. You're right. I just think settlers could have tackled racism right there and integrated. Yeah, but that's not how people work, right? And listen, we've been fighting that for a long time, even till today. Those things don't go away. They just transfer and lift and shift around. And so when you're talking about a new world and trying to survive in a new world, people bring their old ways, right? And they bring with them their old baggage, and sometimes that old baggage helps them survive. Other times it is a hindrance. Dark Fox brings up a campaign that is post-apocalyptic dark fantasy, The world used to be science fantasy, and a lot of the machines have become cosmic horror versions of the Terminators. Now, I hear you. That's right. Yeah, yeah, you're right, man. They're like, wait a minute, that's not a very Christian thing to do, but whatever. I'm, dude, I'm with you right there too. Who's to say, right? What happens in your game when the ultra pious, religious, um, helpful healers in your world go to this new world, and you're like, oh, I support everything they do. They help everyone, they heal the sick, they feed the young, they do all these nice things. But I'm with you too, dude. I'm with you too, but whatever. You get to this new world, and Mr. Paladin goes up front like, yeah, we're here to help you. And then all of a sudden, they're like, kill them all, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, they're pagans. They don't belong with us. They are the other. We need to kill them. And you're like, wait, hold on. For the last 5,000 years, we've been talking about helping people, and now all of a sudden you're flipping sides. And sometimes you'll see what a great way to show a person's true identity when they are put in a alien situation, right? Yeah, Joseph Keenan says syphilis came from the Americas. Yeah, sure did. And listen, um, uh, we know that, like, as much as we understand that criminals were pretty much forced out and kicked out of the Euro theater, a lot of them created the new worlds we live in, Australia and the United States and things like that. So, given the opportunity, a lot of those people were like, I'm gonna make myself a new life for myself, whereas others were like, I'm pious and I'm righteous, and I think I'm gonna kill all those people because they're not like me. Sometimes you find you see someone's true side, and what a great NPC adversary interaction, that the good show their bad side and the bad show their good sides. And you find out, like, maybe the werewolves that have been hunted in the old Victorian world go to this new, doesn't have to be Victorian, but you get my point. They get to this new world, and they find out that there's a whole culture of people who are, air quotes, werewolves, but they're like, we're not bestial. And you're like, I don't have to be this way. And they're like, no, dude, no. We've got, we not only could you just integrate with us, but we've got, like, salves you can rub on your skin and elixirs that you can drink. And the full moon, this is where you have to embrace it. You can't fight against it. And they're like, dude, that's so sweet. Maybe I want to be here with them. I think Dark Fox has a particular. Yeah, Dark Fox is like, yeah, I want necromancers and vampires to hate each other. Although it's possible to bring over, like a disease or rats. Maybe those things are, maybe those things come to our world due to finding a new world, and it opens up the floodgates of not just the good stuff but the bad stuff, bringing over diseases and vampires and invasive species and even monsters that have wanted to escape, that have maybe start to get wiped out from the old world, and they're like, this is a perfect opportunity for us to leave. you know but anyway, guys, we've come to the hour mark. I'm gonna have to go, but I thank you for joining me. As always, I like to say that your time is very valuable. Thank you for spending it with me. I really appreciate it. This week we are talking, tomorrow is Discord Tuesday. It's kind of a grab bag, but I've been defaulting now to gamifying, mechanically speaking, how we can integrate some of our elements. And of course, we're not talking specifically about the Thanksgiving holiday, but the things that leading up to it, the pre and post world identity that comes from why Thanksgiving is a thing here in the States. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar Thursday, about exploration, my favorite, and of course, Future Friday. So thank you for spending your time. Your time is very valuable. I hope you're able to leave with a little bit of change. Have a great one. Hey, kitty.